No.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Counting in.
Hang on. Let me see what I'm reading. Hey there, Marvel fans. The X-Men have grand designs. Let's get this Infinity War started. We found Wolverine. Okay, got it. All right.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. The X-Men have grand designs.
Let's get this started.
Nah, let's do it again.
What was wrong?
You lagged right in the middle of that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We'll start out fine as soon as we start actually doing the show. It's going to mess up on us. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. The X-Men have grand designs.
Let's get this Infinity War started.
Have we found Wolverine yet?
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Month Behind podcast.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of January 28, 2019. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And we're back once again. And this week we are Perry Mason and TJ Hooker. Just because. How you doing, man?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. We've had difficulties lately.
Yeah. We haven't had a show in like 3 weeks because everything is terrible.
Everything is terrible. Well, the show 2 weeks ago, the recording was awful on it, so we had to scrap it.
Yeah.
Then last week we got halfway through the show and we had internet problems.
Yeah.
And then I got the flu.
Yeah, and then you got the flu. So
yeah, and for those who aren't in the States, the flu is extremely bad this year, and I got it and I was down for several days. Which brings us to Perry Mason and TJ Hooker. Because there was a day, and I was trying to text you that night. I would like go to sleep and wake up, and Perry Mason would be on the TV, and then I'd go back to sleep, and I'd wake up, and TJ Hooker would be on the TV, and then I'd go back to sleep and wake up, and something else would be on TV. And so at some point, I started texting you about how bad William Shatner is as an actor and how bad TJ Hooker was. It was just bad, man.
Yeah.
It was awful.
And I'm at work, and I'm just like, dude, I don't have time for your fevered delusions about old TV shows.
And they were fevered at that point too. But the only thing decent about that show is Heather Locklear was like 20 years old, and it was her first acting gig.
I don't even know who Heather Locklear is.
Do you not?
No.
Okay. Well, lately, the last 10 years, all she's done is get arrested, get DUIs, and, go to jail.
Oh.
I mean,
she's probably why I don't know who she is, because she hasn't done anything in my lifetime.
Yeah, dude, she hasn't done anything in the last 10 years. She did Spin City with Michael J. Fox for a while. She was in TJ Hooker and Dynasty at the same time. She's done movies and shows. She was married to Richie Sambora. Let me put it this way. She's such a drunk that Richie Sambora, who Bon Jovi kicked out of the band for being a drunk, divorced her because she's a drunk.
Oh, Lord. I bet that was a fun household.
Dude, there was one night.
Nobody's sober.
I forget who. One of them was driving with the kids in a Suburban going the wrong way on the interstate when the police pulled them over. And they may have both been in the car. I forget the story, but I was like, dude. And it had the kids in the car, man.
That's all bad, dude.
It's all bad, man.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to tell us about your drunk driving stories, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com.
And yeah, so anyway, we're sorry for not being here for the last couple weeks. Hopefully that's no longer a problem and we're back on schedule.
God willing.
Yeah, God willing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should just jump straight into our comic books.
There will be spoilers.
Yeah, we do discuss spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, especially with this Infinity War thing going on, now's your chance.
You're doing Prime this week?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. Dude, I got so many books out there, and we're so far behind. Anyway. Okay. Infinity War Prime. We're finally through all the prequel stuff. I was listening to a video of Rob today reviewing this book, and Rob Thomas from Comics Explained from Third Eye Blind.
No, Rob Thomas isn't in Third Eye Blind. He's in Matchbox 20.
Okay, Rob,
the other alternative '90s band.
I think it's I think it is Rob Thomas though, or is it Rob Jefferson? Rob somebody has a great YouTube show called Comics Explained, and he explained this issue like the Infinity Countdown. He was like, "Here's all you need to know: everybody's after the stones, and Galactus is the World Eater again." There you go. I summarized those 5 books for you.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I'm gonna post it on the website. It really is like 18 months or 18 minutes, and he does a good job of breaking it down. We open with Loki in the let's just call it the library, and he realizes that history isn't correct because it's not just that he never wins, but things that he knows happen aren't correct in the Asgardian lore or tomb, if you will. And there's a librarian there, and they have discussions about it. Finally, she finds pages completely ripped out of a book. So Loki decides to go to the God Quarry, which we were introduced to back in the Thanos series, which I highly recommend that you read. So yeah, they're headed there. Next, we cut to Adam Warlock and Doctor Strange, who are trying to figure out what's going on. Adam Warlock goes to Soul World, and Soul World is not exactly as it's supposed to be. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a desolate wasteland, and Doctor Strange has to go in and get him. And then, by the way, Strange is like, "Oh, by the way, how come you've been fooling around with Kang?" And he's like, "Well, I needed his help." And what does Kang want for that? Your time stone. Yeah, that ain't happening. Yeah. Then we cut to Chitauri Prime, where Thanos at the end of was that in the Thanos series or Infinity Countdown?
That was the Infinity Countdown.
Where Thanos took over to Chitauri?
Oh no, I guess it was the Thanos series, but
okay.
I don't know. He's always in control of the Chitauri, so whatever.
Anyway, he's in control of the Chitauri, and he's sitting there talking about how great he's going to be when Requiem shows up and puts a sword through his heart. Now, this is our second reference to Requiem, and because she was referenced by Marvel and Moondragon in issue 2 or 3 of Countdown. And at this point, we realize that as she puts a sword through Thanos and then decapitates him, that she might be the villain of this series. So then after she kills Thanos, she looks at the Chitauri and says, "Okay, y'all kill yourselves now." And they all kill themselves because by rule of war, she's in charge. They're under her command. When she says kill themselves, they all kill themselves. So much for the Chitauri.
Yeah. And if you weren't sure, all these like little scenes with the dwarf in the forge, that's been with, she's calling herself Requiem.
Yes.
Okay. Well, she's a dumb character, but okay.
Well, it's explained here, and it's something that Thanos thought she would serve Thanos. Instead, she's like, "No, I'm here to kill you." Did we decide to use a she?
Yeah, I assume she was.
Okay. Have you read the next issue yet?
No.
Okay.
Because she's a brand new character. I've never seen her before.
She's really not, but
okay.
Yeah, it's somebody you're familiar with.
Okay. All right.
Truth be told, it's somebody you're very familiar with.
All right. Well, okay. Whatever. I don't know. I think it's a silly MacGuffin, and I'm still not impressed with this series.
Here's what Rob's point today was when I was reviewing the when I was listening to his video in the background. He's like, what would you prefer, that Marvel create a character just as a one-off? Okay, you're going to create him for this series and then kill him, or would you rather have them take a character like we did with Captain America in Secret Empire and evolve that character and make him into something else, and then for years have to deal with how you change that character during that event? And his point was he would rather see you do something with an existing character, because God knows there's enough characters in the Marvel Universe, than having to start over with a new character.
I mean, I agree, but I don't think you need to dress them up as something new and just to reveal that they're a character, you know who they are.
It's a mystery. Okay. Our listeners cannot see your eye roll.
I know, but they can feel it, and I'm unimpressed.
Okay.
Anyway, no Avengers comics this week, but we did have plenty of X-Men comics. In fact, most of what we have this week are X-Men comics. Feels like we have a lot of X-Men comics these days.
We do, yes.
Yeah, starting with X-Men Blue number 32. Cullen Bunn's writing a story here where the young X-Men are attempting to protect Emma Frost from Magneto, who they were recently allied with, and there's a big fight. They're trying to protect Emma Frost. It's not really working, but Magneto's not willing to kill them just to get to her, so he's going to have to do other things.
I don't guess I read that.
Yeah, you didn't miss nothing.
I didn't. Okay.
No. The next comic that we have is X-Men Grand Design Second Genesis number 1. So a few months ago, the first in the series of the X-Men Grand Design books came out, and you and I gave them a resounding thumbs down. We were like, I don't understand why they're just telling us X-Men history. We know all this, whatever. What I didn't appreciate at the time, and maybe we didn't understand, was that this is an effort by Ed Piskor to take the convoluted mess that is the X-Men continuity, which, understand, comic book continuity is a mess. The X-Men continuity within that is even bigger mess. Like, anyone who has read X-Men comics for any amount of time knows it's rough. Like, trying to put together who everyone is and all the different teams and who all these villains are and what's going on sometimes, and all the retcons and the re-retcons, and it's a convoluted mess. I mean, just understanding what's going on with the Phoenix and Jean Grey has always been difficult. Would you agree?
Would I agree with your synopsis of this book, or figuring out what's going on with...
Do you agree that the X-Men continuity within the Marvel Comics is a bear?
Yes, but if you go to where he summarizes on the back, all he did was recap the books in order. I don't think there's any new breaking ground here.
He's not adding new story. What he's doing is he's taking from X-Men, Uncanny X-Men number 1 in 1963 to current day, or relatively current day, and creating a single narrative that you can, a thread that you can follow through all of the comic books that have been released in the last 70 years.
Okay.
You're unimpressed with that, but you haven't read the comics.
I mean, I did read the comic. Actually, after we had our first argument about this, I read the comic. Then I went back and read Giant Size X-Men #1 and started reading Own. And I was like, yeah, okay, there's nothing new here.
No, there's not meant to be anything new. It's meant to be a condensation and a chronicling of X-Men history.
Now that it is, yes.
Yeah, that's what it's meant to be.
That it does do, yes.
Right. And this second, Genesis in particular, gets into the newer X-Men team, and then of course, as revealed by the cover, the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah.
And what Ed Piskor's doing, it's really neat, because if you go look at the first couple issues of this, the art looks like something out of the 60s. And as you read through this, it starts to look like the stuff out of the 70s. So the art style is changing with the eras of the comic books. But yeah,
the art's original. It's all taken from the original comic books.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I don't think so.
Look at that page where he's got all the artists listed.
You might be right. Anyway, if you're a comic book fan who doesn't want to get into every comic book, every X-Men comic that's ever come out, but want to understand what the X-Men have done and where they've been and how they got here, this is a really good series to understand that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Particularly, like, you read it, and then at the end, he goes through and tells you what all the references are. You can find this particular thing that happened in this issue. Like in page 1, they talk about the original X-Men team going missing and the mansion being empty for a year. That's because for 24 months, the X-Men got canceled and became a rerun comic.
5 years.
Was it 5 years?
It was. What this book did do was, in trying to determine what it was, it got me reading Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men, and just kind of looking at it, and looking at it, I realized we've never done a what's next on Claremont's run, and it's magnificent.
Yeah, I mean, Claremont is the architect of most of the classic X-Men stories. But anyway, I read this and then went back and read the original couple of Grand Designs that came out, and they're long. They're like 50 pages each, but you can read them fairly quickly. I think it's a good effort at taking all the X-Men comics and making sense of them.
Years ago, when you were a wee tide of a lad, if you look in Marvel Unlimited, you maybe see something called the Elektra Saga or the Daredevil Saga. Mm-hmm. And they basically did this same thing, and that they chronicled the character's history in this type of manner. Wasn't exactly like this. This has a lot more art, but matter of fact, we were talking about the Black Widow the other day, and she was born in 1918, and this because there's I don't think it's called the Black Widow Saga. It was called something else when I was looking for books, and Marvel's always done this. This is simply a different way of packaging it.
Right. Yeah. And Ed Piskor is, in particular, very good at this kind of thing, this chronicling of history using comics.
Sure.
He's actually got a really cool book that's like the whole history of hip hop from like the early 70s to like the late 90s that does the same thing, and it's really cool.
Huh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon.
Sounds like something I might want to read. Dude, if you've never watched the Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine documentary on HBO, It's a 4-part documentary. I think the thing's in total like 7-8 hours.
Oh gosh,
I forget what it's called. Anyway, it's great, man. It is great, and it takes Jimmy Iovine from the time he was like 15 working in record studios to, you know, when he became Jimmy Iovine running Apple Music. It takes Dr. Dre from the time, you know, he was a 15, 16-year-old hip hop artist going out against his mom's will, you know, working in bars, you know, to being Dr. Dre, who he is now. And it's really, really entertaining. If you're into hip hop and music, or just music in general, it's really entertaining.
That sounds cool. I'll check that out.
Yeah. Here's the kind of thing you learn in it. He was recording Tom Petty, and he was recording Stevie Nicks, and you probably don't know this, but Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks did a duet that was real popular. I don't know, 82, 83, something like that.
I did know that, actually.
Okay, well, I did, you know.
Yeah, I understand. It's not. I wasn't alive then. Yeah.
Tom Petty had a thing for Stevie Nicks, but Jimmy Iovine was shacking up with her, but they couldn't tell Tom Petty because they didn't want to upset what was going on in the studio. So for like 6 months, he's sneaking around with Stevie Nicks. I was like, dude, anyway.
That's weird. But wasn't everybody sneaking around with Stevie Nicks at that point?
Dude, Stevie Nicks is like Natasha Romanoff and a couple of other characters.
Domino and everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been around. This next book we're talking about, you know, Domino's hooking up with Logan.
Yeah.
Dude, she's been around, man.
Yeah, like at one point, I'm pretty sure the whole band was involved.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Excuse me. Speaking of which, that brings us to Hunt for Wolverine, Madripoor number 3. For the love of God, can we please find him?
Actually, at the end of this month, all of these Hunt for Wolverine comics will wrap up, and then we get into more searching for Wolverine stuff.
Yes. Because, and here's what they're doing. These 4 books are covering the sightings of Wolverine. And what we're learning is that Wolverine essentially was resurrected from the dead and brainwashed. And he has to be free from that before we can see him where we saw him, good Lord, 2 years ago with the whatever stone Black Widow has now. How long ago?
Power Stone.
All kidding aside, was that a year ago? Year and a half ago?
At least 6 months. So a year ago in publisher time, but 6 months in our time.
Yeah, it's so anyway. Here's how long it's been. I think tomorrow Uncanny number 11 will come out, and it's when he rejoins the team.
Okay, so cool.
That's how long it's been. So it'll be another 6 months before we actually see him rejoin and say, hey, X-Men, I'm here, I'm alive. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Dude, seriously? Yeah. Anywho, so this begins with he and Domino, and each issue has began with one of the female characters reminiscing about their relationship with Domino, or with Wolverine, which is pretty cool. Then she's at the launch site trying to prevent the launch of the missile. Whoever is manipulating Viper, which we assume is the people who resurrected Wolverine, but I don't know that. That's a total assumption on my part, are insisting that Viper do it now. And then we get to Sapphire, who is having delusions of Wolverine / Patch there trying to kill her. She loses her mind. They finally shut her mind down. And when they do, they forget that it's her mind that was keeping Magneto and Storm and others imprisoned in the basement.
Right. Who are now free.
Magneto is free and he ain't happy.
No, he's gonna wreck the place.
Yeah, and there are a few people who can wreck a place like Eric Lasner when he's mad.
Yeah, like that dude specializes in wrecking the place when he's mad. That dude will F some stuff up.
Yeah, then at the end we have Psylocke and she's free and she ain't happy either. So yeah, this wasn't a bad issue, and we're hating on these because they tease you with you're going to get something about Wolverine, and you're really getting nothing about Wolverine.
Right. I mean, it's just the bare minimum of context of Wolverine to get you to buy the comic, and it's not really about Wolverine at all. And that's with all 4 of these comics. Now, there's 1 or 2 of them that are, in spite of that, pretty good. But this is not one of them in my mind. This one's pretty middle of the road. I will say I like the art. The art's good.
Right. Yeah. Oh, the art is good in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's a bunch of ex-ladies running around Madripoor trying to stop Viper and is that Madam Hydra, or is it just Viper?
It's Viper, who's Madam Hydra again, and some other D-list female villains.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's a bunch of good X-Men ladies fighting bad X-Men ladies.
Yeah.
In Madripoor. The end. Yeah.
The end. Yeah.
Yeah. It's whatever, but at least it looks good.
It does. Yeah. That scene where Magneto's free is pretty good page, pretty good panel.
Speaking of looking good, X-23 #2 looks really good. Not only does the cover look good, which is it's a Mike Choi cover, but the interior art by Juan Cabal is really good. Who's doing the color here? Nolan Woodard. I think the art is good. I think the coloring in this is what makes the whole book really pop. Anyway, if you didn't read the first issue, the Stepford Cuckoos, who we talked about on What's Next recently, are attempting to clone and resurrect their other dead sisters. That's not working out so well for them. Meanwhile, Laura's been tasked with finding a geneticist who's gone missing. And what we find out in the first issue is that it's the Cuckoos who kidnapped this geneticist to clone their sisters. So we're setting up for a X-23 Cuckoos clash. Meanwhile, it's morning and Gabby and Jonathan want pancakes. So they have pancakes and Gabby's still on about having a birthday. Laura's off tracking down this geneticist who tracks her to the weird church that they're using as a base, which is where the Cuckoos reveal themselves and incapacitate Laura while they kidnap Gabby. So now Laura's super pissed, and we'll see in the next issue where that goes, which is not good. You know, this whole thing is not going to end well because it involves Wolverine probably having to kill 1 or more of the Cuckoos.
I think they'll write them off.
I don't think they're going to write them off, but I could see them resurrecting the 2 that were dead and then Laura killing them.
Yeah, I could see that, but I don't think they'll kill the 3 existing.
No, I don't think so. But I think it's going to have some repercussions.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Next, we have Mr. and Miss X #1. First off, I'm still mad about paying $8 for this book. Okay.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I was tricked into buying it. For a brief recap, there are several X-Men events coming up. Extermination, which comes out in a couple of weeks on Unlimited, some other books, and they didn't tell you what you were ordering if you pre-ordered this book. It was just a giant X and classified. And with Marvel previews, and I was like, okay, give it to me for $8. And there was nothing really original here. Okay, half the book is where they crash the wedding in X-Men Gold #30. Okay, and
which we've already seen.
Right, and Mystique shows up, and then they wake up in the morning and think, "Oh my God, what have we done?" And then villains show up, and you're like, "Okay, fine, dude."
Yeah, they wanted to sell an $8 comic, and they knew that the only way they could sell an $8 X-Men comic was to make sure you didn't know what it was till you got it.
Which if I tell you the end, and you've read Exterminated, so if we tell you the end of Exterminated, it would spoil some of the story.
Yeah.
If I tell you what happens in Uncanny 1 through 10, and then what happens in Uncanny #10, it would really spoil the story.
Sure.
Okay. So I understand sometimes you can't give a lot of details, but don't make it look like it's a big event when it's really a throwaway book.
Right. When it's, oh, hey, it's a Rogue and Gambit couples book.
Sure.
Which there was no reason you couldn't have previewed this. None.
Right. Just say, hey, it's a new Rogue and Gambit book. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me they got married. Just, it's a new Rogue and Gambit book. It's a new Rogue book. It's a new Gambit book. Whatever.
Right. I mean, you don't even have to reveal the title. Just in the description, say it's a book about Rogue and Gambit.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
But the thing, that's just it. They knew that if that was the case, they wouldn't get any pre-orders for it. If they rolled it out and didn't tell you anything about it the same time that they're rolling out Uncanny X-Men and a couple of events, you'll pick it up thinking it's more than it is.
Yeah.
It's intentional. It was intentional deception on the part of the publisher.
Right. I'm going to go pick up Uncanny 11 tomorrow, which I think is an $8 book. It may be a $10 book. Okay. But I know what's in it. Again, they can't see you rolling your eyes. I know what's in it. Okay. I know what I'm buying. Fantastic Four number 4 or number 5 was like the 7th or 800th issue. And it had something very special in it. I paid $8 for it. I knew what I was buying. Okay. Don't trick me into paying $8 or $10 and then not give me something of value.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I read this column every month by a guy who owns a comic book store, and he writes basically every month about what that experience is like month to month.
Sure.
And in the most recent article that he wrote, he was like, dude, I don't understand what Marvel's doing. They keep pushing out more and more books with more and more variant covers as a sales incentive, and it's not working. And it has not been working for years. And they keep doubling down on it, and it's just the most baffling thing.
I was going through Amazing Spider-Man number 1, which I think is Lost, which we talked about, had like 15 alternate covers. Fantastic Four number 1 is going to be out in a few weeks. Dude, it had 28 alternate covers. Seriously.
And, for something like a relaunch of Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, I understand having multiple variants, but 28, dude?
28, man. Come on.
Yeah. And here's the thing is there's an issue of Venom coming out that Dave is it Dave Gibbons? I think it's Dave Gibbons, guy that did the Watchmen covers. He basically does a Venom version of a Watchmen cover, and it's the only variant cover for that issue, and it's selling like crazy.
Sure.
I mean, pre-orders for that comic were through the roof to begin with, and then I don't even know what it's going to look like on eBay later. I can't imagine. That's going to be a $1,200 comic book.
So, some of these alternate covers, I posted what day is this? I posted the covers for February 3rd on the website. And I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, I was looking at the prices of them as I do it, because of the page I click on, and there's a link there. So if you like see the cover, the title below it, you can click on it. It'll carry you to the sales page. And most of them sell for $20, $30. Dude, every now and then you find one, $300, $500, $900. Man, I think the highest one I've seen is a Spider-Man that was $900.
Yeah. And here's the issue, and we've talked about this some. That's exactly what started happening in the mid 90s when the comic book industry crashed because of speculation.
Yes.
You had all these people buying comic books for collections and jacking up the price and reselling them and not reading them. And eventually that market crashed and it almost destroyed the industry.
Yes.
And Marvel is setting up the same scenario.
And we've discussed this ad nauseum. They're desperately trying to save their distributors and their print copies, and they just need to go to another business model.
Yeah. And look, it's not just Marvel, DC too. Sure. The issue is this. you have a audience that you have a core audience that's always going to read things like the X-Men and Batman and the Avengers and the comic the capes and tights stuff. But you have all these other smaller independent publishers who are publishing really good stuff, some of which I'm reading, that's very high quality at a time when buying print comic books is more expensive than it's ever been. The majority of us are on budgets and we don't have the dollars to throw around to everybody. So if I want to read X-Men and Avengers and Iron Man and all these other comics and also support independent creators, because there's either creators that I like or it's just a comic book series I enjoy, then you have to trim what you pick up every week. And the market is not going to sustain itself on that. It's just not.
And we know how old I am, and we've joked, I think earlier in this podcast about how old I am. But when comic books were 25 cents, when they were $1, when they were $2, okay, you walk in, buy a stack of 10 comic books, you're at $20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You get 10 comics in a week, you're at $20. Okay. I see guys every week when I'm picking up my comic books that are getting a stack of 10 or 12 comic books, and it's costing them 45, 50, 60 bucks a week. And I don't have that kind of disposable income, and I make good money. Okay. I don't have that kind of disposable income.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's why we moved to Marvel Unlimited, and it's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can do a whole podcast on the problems with the industry. But so my point was going to be, if there's another comic book crash, it takes the independent stores with them, and the publishers survive, but they have no one to sell to.
We're going to do the Chris Claremont Uncanny Run soon. And it's probably going to be at least a 2-part podcast, maybe a 3-part. And in it, I'm going to talk about how he sold those X-Men comics in the beginning. And it's just such a different world now than it was then.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, print media was a totally different thing now. I mean, you didn't have digital then. You didn't have all these other things. It was literally a different world.
Yeah.
But anyway, we could spend the whole podcast talking about this. Old Man Logan number 44. Bullseye is going on a rampage. He kidnaps this dude's son because this dude helped this lady who's trying to kill him. This lady and Logan are teaming up trying to find Bullseye. Bullseye's killing a whole lot of people. Yeah, it's a mess, dude. I assume what we're seeing here is the events that cause Bullseye to become who he has become in the Old Man, in what do they call, in the Wasteland?
Yes, in Old Man Hawkeye.
Right. The Bullseye we're seeing in Old Man Hawkeye is being created in this current storyline in Old Man Logan. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well,
I don't know how we get from one to the other. I know they're definitely evolving Bullseye's character here in this Old Man Logan. And one of the things I like about this Old Man Logan storyline is it harkens back to the Bullseye Limited series that was out about 12 months ago, maybe. And it harkens back to the Wilson Fisk Limited series that was out about a year ago also.
Yeah.
So it's not just, hey, we're just throwing Bullseye here to sell issues. This is all weaving a story together that involves Fisk, involves Bullseye, involves Logan. It's all tied together, and it's good storytelling.
Yeah, it is. And I think if I had to guess, because it's running concurrently with this Old Man Hawkeye comic, we're seeing whatever the motivation is for who Bullseye is in that book is being developed here.
Sure. So next up, we have Multiple Man number 2. And I wasn't really into this. And I'll tell you when I got into it. You got all these versions of the Multiple Man, the Hulk, the Bullseye, the Cable, etc. The X-Men don't know what to do with him, so he jumps back to the future so he can fix the past, so he can prevent the future from happening. At one point, he explains all that, and the character he's explaining to just looks at him, and that's how I feel. I'm just like, okay, sure, yeah, that's going to work for you. He hooks up with the Resistance there, which is all run by kids who are like, 8 to 13 years old with 5 duplicates. We have a mechanical forge. And then you get to the best part where they go on and start fighting the Resistance, and Jamie, the Multiple Man, Jamie Madrox, expects the Hulk to Hulk out and, go get stronger. Instead, he blows up and there's blood and gore everywhere. And he realized that his dupes are not working out. And
this is how he got here.
Yeah, that's how the comics kind of hooked me. Yeah. That's the issue that hooked me, yeah.
It's good. It involves a lot of time travel. And sometimes it can be hard to keep it all straight.
Yeah, it got confusing.
It gets real confusing. If you haven't read the first issue, go back and read the first issue, because don't jump in with this one because you have no idea what's happening.
Right.
But it's a good comic. I'm enjoying it. But if you're a Doctor Who fan, this is easier for you because you deal with this a lot. But if you're someone who doesn't like time travel or can't deal with like things happen in the future which influence the past, and the past comes back to influence the future, and dude, it ain't for you.
Right.
X-Men Wakanda Forever #1. Nakia shows up in a grocery store where the X-Men are shopping, blows some stuff up. The Dora Milaje show up and handle her, and Black Panther shows up at the end. The end.
There you go.
Yeah. We have also Amazing Spider-Man #2. #2, you say? Weren't we just on issue like 801? Yes, we were. We relaunched a couple weeks ago with Amazing Spider-Man #1 because Nick Spencer has taken over. Dan Slott's now on Iron Man, and we're getting back to basics, which is the
Peter and Mary Jane hooking up.
Yeah. Well, Back to Basics is the name of the story arc, and this is Nick Spencer undoing Brand New Day. They've put Mary Jane and Peter back together. And in fact, this book opens with them waking up in the morning, kind of talking about things. Peter wants to hang out with Mary Jane all day, but he's got to get to class. Get to class, you say? Yeah, if you didn't read the first issue, he had his doctorate revoked because the world is under the impression that he plagiarized his thesis paper. He didn't. The thesis paper was written by Dr. Octavius when Doc Ock was in Peter's body back in Superior Spider-Man. But the university is giving him the opportunity to take an accelerated course to re-earn his degree. And his instructor is none other than the Lizard, Doc Connors. Who's in control of his powers these days through the powers of an inhibitor chip. Anyway, Taskmaster and Black Ant show up, and they're gonna do bad stuff because I don't know. They don't really do a good job of explaining their motivation here. Either way, Peter's got to figure out how to stop them without revealing himself as Spider-Man. He's able to do that. He beats up Taskmaster and Black Ant. But the weird thing is there's like 2 Peters at the end. There's Spider-Man and then regular old Peter Parker, and I don't know how that happened. But anyway.
I mean, I can speculate, but obviously it'll be explained next issue.
Hopefully it's not a clone thing.
No, it's Dr. Connors, the Lizard, is trying to figure out how to separate himself, trying to separate the Lizard from Kirk Connors.
Right.
And he's got the machine that created Spider-Man there. All those chemicals blow up, the machine's there. Suddenly you have a Spider-Man and a Peter Parker.
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden you've separated the two from each other. Yeah. That'd be an interesting story. I get that.
Yeah. Next, we've been moving into our comics in the 616 universe. We have Deadpool Assassin #4. So Deadpool and Threnody, I guess that's how you pronounce that, are on the run from the Assassin's Guild. And it's pretty entertaining because Deadpool says he's trying to get money for his beach house so he can retire. So you just see him and Trinity running through mission after mission after mission, from trying to get a sample of Swamp Thing's DNA to interrupting the Mojoverse to going to Las Vegas. And there's a scene where you see he's dressed like Mr. Knight, in the tuxedo, the mask, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's there with Mr. Knight, with Moon Knight, except Deadpool's in the whole tuxedo and mask and everything. It's pretty entertaining. Finally, we get to Weasel, who's been doing all this. Weasel's got two problems. First off, Belladonna and the Assassin's Guild figure out who he is, and they go after him. Secondly, he hasn't exactly been telling his wife that he's been booking all of Deadpool's kills for him, and she doesn't exactly know what he does for a living. So it doesn't go well, but fortunately, Deadpool was there to save the day for him. So there you go. We'll see how this ends next issue.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Who's writing this?
I just closed it. Mark Bagley is drawing it.
That's
it. Colin Bunn.
Okay. I knew there was a creative team attached to it that I actually was interested in, but I have not so far read any of it.
Colin Bunn and Mark Bagley. It's extremely entertaining. If you're into Deadpool, which we often discuss whether or not, you're a Deadpool guy or not.
I like Deadpool. I don't like a lot of Deadpool. I like Deadpool in doses. So I'm reading the main Deadpool comic.
Right.
But dude, he's showing up everywhere. So I feel like I get an overdose of Deadpool as it is.
Yeah. And so many issues of Deadpool are done badly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where Colin Bunn and Mark Bagley are doing it right. Bagley's art's great. Colin Bunn is it's like the scene where he and Mr. X are standing there together, or excuse me, Mr. Knight. It's really done well, and this is some good Deadpool.
That's good. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 33. First of all, the cover is really neat. It's actually a photograph of the artist sitting in his desk, and then they have like out the window behind him, there's like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur looking in. It's pretty neat. Moon Girl's having issues transforming into Devil Dinosaur and doing that whole brain swapping thing that they do. And so she's in her lab trying to work out how that works. There's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur number 33 for you. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, dude, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. There's not a lot going on here.
What is bad is Marvel 2-in-1 number 8. I'm a big fan of this series. I know it gets better with when the Fantastic Four return, but this issue is just, girl ran off with the doohickey that takes him from place to place. Dr. Doom went after her. They've been stuck in this world for months. They've lost their powers. They're mad at each other about it. Okay. That's 2 pages, not a whole issue.
I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it's some character exposition, but it was. The problem I have with it is it stops the narrative in its tracks and just stands around staring at itself for a while. And that's my problem, is it doesn't really advance the story forward in any meaningful way.
I mean, the main story of this Marvel 2-in-1 is Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm adjusting to life without Reed Richards, Sue Richards, if you will, and all of the kids. Okay, that they went on without them.
Yeah.
And the whole series deals with that. Mm-hmm. Okay, which is the Fantastic Four went off and did what do they call that group with the kids? Anyway, they went off with the kids and started doing their own thing and didn't even bother telling Johnny and Ben, hey, we're alive. Okay. And so in this dealing with the fact that they think they're dead, eventually you're going to get to, hey, you were alive the whole time and you didn't bother dropping a quarter and calling us and telling us.
Right. It all has to do with what happened at the end of Secret Wars and what they've been doing since then. But yeah, it's like, you had all this amazing power and you couldn't have made a phone call.
Yeah, you're hopping from universe to universe. You couldn't come here for 5 minutes and told us you're okay.
Hey, we're running around space. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you, man. What was very good was Moon Knight 197.
Your boy Max Bemis, man, is just nailing it.
Yeah. His band dropped their last album the other day, and I hadn't listened to it yet, but apparently it's really good. So we begin with a meeting, a dinner, if you will, of 4 individuals who look like they're going to be inducted into some sort of cult. And we spend most of the issue being introduced to these people. You know, one guy's like a photographer and he does weird photography stuff, and he's obviously, they don't use his name here, but he's obviously, oh, what's that dude's name? He's a famous Hollywood photographer and does, you know, photo shoots. He does the hottest photo shoots. He's one of the highest paid photographers in the world. And dude's a super creep. Dude is creepy. Anyway, obviously that's him because it looks just like him. He's being inducted into this cult because he takes photographs that other people aren't willing to do. This other girl is essentially the, I thought this was really cool. The Italian mob took out the Chinese triad at one point, and they take this baby who is the daughter of the leader of that rival mafia, and raise her as one of their own, and then she takes them all out and is now head of the mafia, which I thought was really cool. He tells the story in about 3 pages, which is also because there are people out there who would take an entire comic book to write that story. Max only needed 3 pages.
Right.
One guy is a mass murderer. Another guy's a piercer who does really crazy stuff. Basically kills people with piercings who are into that. And they're all being inducted into this sadist cult. Except Moon Knight shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm here to kill all of you. And he does. Or before he can kill them all, he's being welcomed into the cult. I don't know. I guess we'll have to tune in and see next week or in the next issue. Because it takes a real weird turn in the last 2 pages. So,
or he winds up running the cult.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, I'm here to kill you all, or I'm gonna lead the cult. I don't know.
Yeah, another very good book was Century #2. Did you read this?
Nah.
It's really good. It opens. He had this device, Bob the Century did, where he could go and basically to another universe, another plane of existence, and use the powers of the Century without pulling the Void into the 616 universe, for lack of a better explanation.
Right. In fact, that's how he kept the Void at bay. Is he would go be the Century for a little while, and that would keep the Void at bay.
Right. So this book opens with whatever they call Miss Century. I don't know, Centuriette something, and the villain Kronos is there, or Chronio. I'm sorry, who's Chronio? Have no idea, but you know, she proceeds to kill Centuriette. I really should learn her real name. Anyway, then we cut back to the diner where Bob and everybody works. Her real name's Jenny, and that's who the Centuriette is up in the I don't know, Century Universe, let's call it. So he's freaking out with Billy because he knows his 24 hours are up, and he's got to turn into the Century, and he's got to do something with all this power, or the Void's going to come. So he's trying to work it out. Then Misty Knight and S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up and arrest him. They stick him in a bunker with Misty Knight and Tony Stark where he's 6 miles underground. Yes, 6 miles underground. And Bob and Tony start having a conversation. And Tony's like, look, you know, we tried to let you roam free. We can't. You got too much power, so you got to stay here. And Bob's like, yeah, what I need to do is go out and fix this. And Tony's like, yeah, you can't do that. And Bob's like, you don't understand. I wasn't asking permission. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. And then he blows his way out of the bunker, except when he gets there, he gets to the Sentryverse just in time to back up a few pages, and see Cronio killing Centriette. And then Duder goes home, and we find out that he's got the device strapped on the real Cronio's head. And this is a great story.
Okay.
It's a really good mystery because you understand what's happening, but you're dealing with two different dimensions, and somehow they're intertwined by this device and the Void and the Sentry, and it's good, man. I really enjoyed it.
I might go back and read it. I don't know. I was never a big fan of the Sentry, so yeah. I did enjoy the first issue, though. I just didn't read it. Punisher 228. So if you've been reading this, you know Punisher's got the War Machine armor, and he's being chased down by all the heroes, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, etc., because he's using the War Machine armor to do, in their mind, questionable things. But what he's been doing for the last couple of issues is he goes to the black site where Baron Zemo is being kept and all the Hydra people, because they tricked him into working for Hydra back during Secret Empire, with the intention of killing Baron Zemo. The problem is that the heroes interfere, and even though here in this issue, Frank's got Baron Zemo on the ground, dead to rights, you know, you give him 5 more seconds and Baron Zemo's dead. The heroes interrupt that because they think Frank Castle's the bigger threat. And Baron Zemo gets away. They capture Frank. And this is where, you know, Frank gives up the armor because Rhodey's back. And he basically says, you know, you got me, but do you understand that the bad guy got away because you were concerned with what I was doing? And this is why I'm not on your team. This is why I'm not with you guys, because you don't have a good assessment of what the threat is. You know, if you waited,
you're idiots.
Yeah, if you'd waited 5 minutes, you could still be capturing me, and Baron Zemo, you could be putting Baron Zemo in a body bag. You could have accomplished both things if you just let me do my job. And he gets a speech from Nick Fury. They throw him in a police van. He gets arrested. And at the end, the police van's promptly stopped by Natasha Romanoff and Bucky, who were going to spring him. And I'm not entirely certain that this effort by Bucky and Natasha isn't Nick Fury playing both sides of the game. I think he rounded up all the heroes to stop Frank Castle, and he got Natasha and Bucky to free Frank Castle so they could go kill Baron Zemo.
Sure.
I've been watching the most recent issue of Punisher the last day or two. I'm on episode like 4 or 5. I forget. You know, it's a weird thing to admire, but it's probably not a good thing, but you've got to admire the conviction of Frank Castle. You're a bad guy. I'm putting a bullet in your head, and you're never going to hurt anyone again.
That is his plan, yes.
Yeah, and he's trying to do that with Baron Zemo in this comic, and the heroes they're too heroic to get the job done, and to, you know, they thwart their own plans because of their ideals. And even I would make the case that, you know, maybe that's the you know, holding to a higher standard sort of thing. But dude, so, you know, it's the Batman and Joker thing. You know, at some point,
absolutely,
you just put a bullet in the Joker's head and be done.
Yeah, I mean, at what point? How many times do you put the Joker in Arkham Asylum and he gets free before the bodies that happen when he gets free the 43rd time are your responsibilities and not his?
Right. Yeah.
Because if you just put a cap in him, he wouldn't have escape the 43rd time.
Right. You know, how many times is Baron Zemo going to escape and rebuild Hydra from the ground up for the 108th time? You know, and all that entails, you know, if you just let Frank do his thing for a second and look the other way, you wouldn't have to deal with him any longer. Anyway, it's a moral quandary and a moral dilemma, which is what I like in Punisher. When he does these sorts of things and you go, man, that's effective, but I don't know about your methods. You know, you kind of have that like, you know, it works, but what are we losing in getting here sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next, we have Venom #4. Did you read this?
I did, yes.
Did you understand it?
Yep.
Okay, so we learned that the symbiote is actually a god from eons ago. They're scared of noise and fire because that's how he made his sword. The planet Clintar isn't a home world. It's actually a prison for them. And somehow along the way, they've freed all of the symbiotes instead of keeping them in prison. Did I sum this up properly?
You left out most of the details, but yeah. This being that we're dealing with is he is a being that existed in the void before time began.
Is he essentially a cosmic elder like Galactus and the Stranger?
He's beyond them. He existed before they were even conceptualized. And what he did was he took that void and forged it into a weapon, a sword specifically, and that was the first symbiote. And the reason they're afraid of fire and sound is because of that process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just Venom is really hot right now. Everyone's enjoying the books. The books are selling great. The movie was great. It's just
the movie was just okay.
Isn't my thing.
Yeah, the movie was just okay. Something you have to understand with this Venom comic is he's relying on what is known as existential cosmic horror, and those elements, which were really, I don't want to say created, but perfected by horror writers like H.P. Lovecraft. If you're not into or familiar with that sort of material, I can see where this doesn't make any sense. I am, and I'm a big fan of that sort of thing. So this Venom comic's right up my alley.
Sure. And I'm not, so it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to Star Wars, we have Dr. Aphra 22. I like this comic, but man, I've lost the story. I have lost the plot of this comic. We're 22 issues in, and they've got so many things going on and so many characters running around that the plot makes no sense. Aphra's being manipulated by the crazy droids, so she's off doing things, but there's this bounty hunter who's looking for her, and then the Imperial lady that she's kind of sort of hooking up with is also looking for her, and then Han Solo's wife is hunting her also, and there's another alien in the mix who I don't really remember but came from the past. And meanwhile, Aphra's trying to find a Jedi artifacts on a planet while also being hunted, and it manifests as her mother. And dude, there's too much going on for me to keep it all straight. It's like Peter David's writing this.
That's funny.
Cy Spurrier's writing it. I'm about to kick it to the curb because as much as I enjoy these characters, none of this is coherent. It's an incoherent mess. And I've lost the plot. In fact, I even went back this week and read like the last 5 issues to see if maybe if you read it all as one, it makes more sense. Nah, dude, it's all in the last 3 issues or so, it's become a mess.
Yeah.
there's too much going on, and you got to trim the fat off this book.
Yeah. Next, we have Lando Double or Nothing. If you need to trim the fat, just cancel this book.
Yeah, I didn't even bother reading.
A couple of cool drawings. You got a couple of cool drawings of the Millennium Falcon. That's it. That's the only redeemable thing in this book.
Well, there you go. So, anyway.
All right. We got a long pause there. You started buffering a lot during that Venom book, but I think it's salvageable. So let's try and wrap it up without buffering, and hopefully you can splice all this together.
Yeah, you actually lost you during that Venom comic.
Yes, we did. You locked up and we lost each other during the Venom comic. And then you buffered a little bit when we were talking about the Star Wars books, but it's the first time, and I think it's salvageable if we put a good ending on it.
Okay. Anyway, what was your favorite comic book this week?
Infinity Prime.
Oh.
Okay. If nothing else, because of Mike Deodato's art.
Okay. I'm gonna go with X-23.
Yeah, and that was a good book also. I'm a big fan of Mike Deodato, and I just enjoy his art.
Yeah, dude, he's one of my favorites too.
Yep.
I have no idea what was in the dump this week.
Dude, I don't remember. I know I'm getting Marvel team-up books, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I'm getting Marvel team-up. Thank you. Someone is listening.
Yeah, there's that one guy in the Marvel digital editorial office who's like, Pat from 6 months behind wants Marvel 2-in-1. Make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I just do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got you. Anyway, that's going to do it for us this week. Hopefully we're back on a normal schedule. We'll have another What's Next happening here soon as well. We'll get back on that. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com. Very quickly, you got to look at the pull down menus to see all of the content, because I don't do everything as a post. So like every week, I don't put the alternate covers on the main page. But if you look at the tab that says alternate covers, pull them down, they're all there. Same things with the What Next podcast, other things.
Right. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this week. As usual, Pat, do you have some wisdom to give to us?
Isaac Asimov said, the saddest aspect of life right now is that science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom.
And I'm going to do something I don't normally do. In fact, I don't think I've ever done, is I have wisdom myself that complements your Isaac Asimov quote. A quote by H.P. Lovecraft that the sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, well, that's H.P. Lovecraft for you.
There you go.
Peace.
We're out.